everybody, it's Clarissa here. I am in the limelight, and today I've got an extraordinary person, someone that I've known for a while, someone that has a heart of gold, someone that, as you very well know, when I speak about entrepreneurs and I speak about what it is that we do, we have those four pillars, and they are look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. And I'll tell you, if there's a personification of greater good, it is of today's guest. I do want to remind you to go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you give some love to In the Limelight Media so that we can get the word out about all the extraordinary solopreneurs and entrepreneurs that we learn from week by week. I do want to remind you also that this video will also, the interview will become a podcast, and you can listen to the interviews on Apple Music, I think they call it now, and Google Play. And then you'll see it here in the limelight in the next iteration, the next publication, which will drop on March 1st. This is the last one. You all have seen it. It's the Lamborghinis on the cover. And we call this intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur and for entrepreneurs with a social conscience, which is why I want to bring on my next guest, someone that I just have watched sort of from the wings for a while. And I love the work they do. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to put the ticker is going to start going now. It is project.c.u.r.e. And the man, the legend that runs it all behind the scenes and so selflessly is Doug Jackson. Douglas Jackson, there he is.
Great to see you.
It's good to see you too, Doug.
You.
I first of all highly commend every minute of your day and what you do, and with all your helpers all over the world. And I do know that Project C.u.r.e, or let's say the first iteration of Project C.u.r.e, started back in 1987 when your father took a trip to Brazil and was horrified by the health conditions or the horrible health conditions that he came back to the United States and I told you all about. So you guys did something about it. Can you tell us about that, how it all got started?
Well, it actually got started quite by accident, which is sometimes, Post-it notes and some of the great things that we really enjoy, we never intended to create. And that really is the story of Project C.u.r.e. My dad had done a lot of work in the mountains outside of Denver, a little place called Vail and another place called Winter Park, and did a lot of real estate development there and was very, very successful at it. But he discovered that just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean that you're happy. And so my parents started a foundation, gave the money away. And my dad was down doing economic consulting in Brazil, and his interpreter was a medical student, and she took him to a favela clinic and they didn't have anything in it. And it just really tore my dad's heart out.
Right.
And so that was the genesis. One of his friends filled up his garage full of medical supplies, and my parents paid to ship that down to Brazil. And my story, I was going down a completely different path. I graduated from law school and passed the bar when I was 23 and worked for Judge Schroeder in Idaho for a bit. And then I ended up going in-house for a big agriculture manufacturing company. And my whole goal was just to make $1 more than I could spend.
Right.
Dad had done that. So I went back and I got a PhD in finance, and I thought I want to go do this hedge fund thing and private equity, investment banking, something like that.
Right.
My dad kept saying, hey, you should give back. And so ultimately that led to me joining Project C.u.r.e. And I told my dad that I would help him for a bit. We got a 6-month grant, and I brought 2 of my friends, and that was going to be the end of that. And here we are now. It's been 23 years since we've been doing this. We've grown a little bit.
It started in ministry, didn't it? If I remember the story correctly.
Well, I mean, we have a very deep, faith connection, and are really people who believe that there is a higher power and God really gives you things that you need to be stewards over.
Right.
Really interesting things about Project C.u.r.e. is that, if you look at the teachings in the New Testament, it never required you to make a faith commitment before you got fed. Jesus healed people without asking them, hey, how do you believe? He just said, look, take up your bed and walk, go down, wash your eyes. And so we've never really said you have to be, evangelical Christian or Catholic or whatever to be in this sandbox. We just say, look, we're called to love people. We're called to help them. We're called to go around the world and give them medical supplies. And if you want to come play with us, you're welcome, whoever you are.
Extraordinarily commendable. I really, I love, that's one of the things I love about all charities, but certainly yours, because I know that you and I had a conversation some time ago, quite a while ago, about the logistics that go behind. And I'm reading here, last year I think it was 244 foot containers go out each year with Project C.u.r.e. cargo. Oh, wow. And the difficulties in making sure that everything that goes onto these containers make it to port and then make it to the people that need it, because of some of the corruption in the 135 countries that you're dealing with.
Right.
So I can't even wrap my head. That's not even fathomable to me, the amount of work, disappointment, and probably heartache that has foregone in these last 23 years of trying to do the right thing, getting the equipment, the medicine, the supplies to the right people.
Right.
And maybe it didn't happen. So I know that you've gone through, great measures with different countries and their governments. Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Well, one of the things that makes us really unique is that we always do a needs assessment before
Right.
It's one of those truths of life that sometimes your greatest strength becomes your greatest weakness. And
Right.
well, remember I said my dad's not a medical doctor. He's a real estate developer.
Right.
He didn't understand anything about third world healthcare. So the way that he learned it was he went into the field and he just started asking questions like, what do you need? Wouldn't that be a nice thing for people to ask? What is it I could do to help?
Right.
Not what I think will help you, but what do you tell me will help you? And that we still do to this very day.
What's funny, I do remember you saying to me, sometimes it's something as simple as a Band-Aid. They just don't have them. But I do, some of the most amazing, and then you said to me, I'll never forget, we had a conversation, again, the same conversation many years ago, when it was, well, Clarissa, sometimes when, doctors are in the operating theater and they go and they open up the sterile packet, there are a lot of those pieces in there that aren't being used in that operation and they just get thrown away. Right. So what we like to do is to go in and collect. And, I'm going to start while you talk. What I'm going to do is I do have some pictures that I'm going to put up as you're talking. Unfortunately, it's going to go over both of our faces. But, give us an idea as to what is needed. How do you decide, again, with your needs assessment, I guess that's how you decide what goes where, and then how we might be able to help.
So when we're in those hospitals, we're asking doctors and nurses, all of the easy questions first, like, how many babies are born here? What's your cesarean rate? How many doctors? How many nurses? How many surgeons? And we get a really good sense. It takes us about 3 or 4 hours to get through 18 pages of questions.
Wow.
We actually go room to room through the hospital and say, let's talk about the emergency room. Do you need crash carts and gurneys? Do you need defibrillators? Do you need trach sets? Do you need gloves and gauze and suture, scrub sets? And then we go to the ER, or to the OR rather, and we do that again. And then we go into the ICU, we do that again. And we're asking questions about all the things that they have and then all the things that they need.
Right.
That's how we create the whole list of the things that we're going to ship. And and then what we're trying to do is to go back either through a survey tool or physically go back and visit again to make sure that the things that we sent were the most appropriate and that we're doing the best job that we can.
Right.
At the same time, we're working with the hospitals here in the United States, in Denver, Phoenix, Nashville, Houston, Chicago, Philadelphia, and now in Kansas City.
Right.
And we go to these hospitals and manufacturers and we say, listen, we need a lot of this or that or whatever. We need an ultrasound. We need an anesthesia machine. It was kind of fun. We did a project with Hill-Rom just this last year. Hill-Rom is, a big bed manufacturer. And we went to Health Trust, which is HCA, and said, let's do a trade-in program. I mean, we've shipped thousands of hospital beds now.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, again, I'll pull up this picture right here. I mean, this, and this is one fraction of one distribution center in one of the distribution centers that you have.
Right.
The amount, just the amount of work that goes into the collection itself. Are you have your own vehicles that are going around? I mean, how do people get in touch with you? Say, hey, I've got, some crutches you may use, or, how do people get in touch with you? And is it that way that you are gathering the supplies? Can it be organic?
Yeah, we're really working hard on being, a household name. I sometimes people they're trying to be nice and they say, "Oh, you guys are the greatest kept secret," and I'm like, you know what? That's really not very helpful. I
Yeah.
don't want to be a
Right.
secret.
Yeah, of
I
course.
want everybody
Yeah.
to know where you go to give your medical supplies. We do a lot of work with big groups, volunteer groups that will come out, and these might be corporations, they might be churches, it might be school kids, and they've got volunteer hours that they want to put in, and
Sure.
so this year we'll have about plus or minus 35 paid staff, and we've
Mhm.
got 35,000 volunteers. So almost 1,000 volunteers for every paid staff member. And these are people who, come in and they'll give a couple of hours of volunteer time, which is fantastic.
Right.
And then I hope that they go out and they talk to their doctors and their friends and all of their company and say, hey,
Right.
we just had a great experience. Let's go do this again together.
Well, there's also, and I'm going to bring this back up. There are ways to volunteer. People will travel with you. You can get medical supplies. You can give medical supplies. There's
Mhm.
all different ways. Look at all these different ways, everybody, that you can contribute. You can donate. You can volunteer. You can tag along. There's all kinds of different ways. Doug, can you talk to a few of them for us so that we get a sense of how truly we might be able to have, here's one thing and about charities, 501c3. You can donate some money, and honestly, and I mean this with all love in my heart, really never know if the money is where it's going. So much like your medical equipment, where is it going? Did my dollars really, do any good? Did they
Right.
help someone? This right here, these, what are they? 10 different things are sure shot. There's, there they are right there. So if you could talk to us about, some of these ways of helping. I know people go out in the field. They get down and dirty. They get their hands muddy.
Right. Yeah, that was a piece of this that we never really intended from the outset to put together. But we would go to hospitals here in the United States, or we'd be talking to doctors and nurses, and they would say, "Wow, what you guys do is the coolest thing. Could I ever go with you?"
Right.
And then we would get in country in the field somewhere, and they say, "Hey, thanks for a semi truck trailer of medical supplies. Do you ever have anybody who could come help?" And so, not being a real smart guy, they want to go help. These people need help. I'll bet we can figure that out. So
Sure.
we started a program called c.u.r.e clinics,
Right.
and we actually go administer healthcare in these communities about
Right.
7 days. And it's we'll go in and we'll actually see 4 or 5 thousand people in a week who had never seen a doctor before, and it's just revolutionary.
I'll bet it is.
We started teaching, and so we'll teach things like how do you save a newborn baby, right? Helping babies breathe, or helping mothers survive.
Right.
That's under the rubric of Cure College, and it does a couple of things. Number one, we can reduce maternal mortality. We can reduce infant mortality by teaching the skill set.
Sure.
Plus, what it does for this young nurse, for example, you tell her, look, don't get married, stay in school, don't get pregnant, get out of school, get a job.
Right.
When we can teach her and get her certification, that helps her advance in her career.
Yep.
And at some point, she can decide who she wants to marry and have babies with, because she has mastery over her destiny, and
Yeah.
that happens through education. So we're really excited about that. And then we started
Not
this
only,
whole
but just what kind of perspective you get by being in a situation
right.
like that, as opposed to going to medical school here in the United States, to be able to be, in community with these different folks, these different tribes, these different towns, these different communities all over the world, has got to be, and it's in and of itself, an extraordinary experience. Okay, so there's volunteering. Again, travel with us. You can fundraise for a project.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about a couple of the ones on the bottom that stand out to you, that are the quickest, maybe fastest ways for people to really help.
So the fundraising is really fun. We've got some places on our site where we do almost a GoFundMe type enterprise for people who, let's say you're from Kenya and you want to do a project in your village back home, help the hospital, maybe build a clinic or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You got a few $1,000s to put in as seed money, but you need your friends to help.
Right.
Or if somebody's just sitting in the middle of the night surfing the web, and they pop across this and it's like, hey, that's a cool project.
Right.
Well, you can donate into that, right? And it makes it really easy. Some
Okay.
people want to say, they just say, hey, what could I do like on a monthly basis, for
Right.
example?
Right.
Well, we know that it costs us right around between $20,000 to $25,000 to deliver a semi-truck trailer full of medical supplies. What's inside of there on average is around $400,000.
Hmm.
So we can put in one box, we put 800 boxes in that container, and what's inside the box is about $500, right? So a lot of people come along and say, I would like to sponsor the delivery of a box. It's $25 every month. I want to do 2 boxes a month, $50 a month. At the end of the year, at $25 a month is $300, right?
Right.
You will have delivered $6,000
Crazy.
of medical supplies
Crazy.
who
Yeah.
otherwise they don't have a chance.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so that's a no-brainer. What about these deliver cure kits? And the pack kits for kids.
So those are two little things that are quite different in the way that they go. There's a lot of doctors and nurses who will say, "Hey, I'm going to go over and work in Haiti after the earthquake. I want to go over
Right.
and work in Ecuador. I want to take some
Right.
things to a displaced peoples group in the Middle East, whatever."
Mhm.
These are just amped up first aid kits. There's about $2,500 worth of really serious stuff like ammo bags and blood pressure cuffs and gauze and gloves and all of that kind of thing. And we pack them in 50-pound bags so you can check them on as your luggage. And people can just order those. We ask for a donation, and then out of that, then we pay the shipping. So we'll put them right on your doorstep. But that's for you
Wow.
to take with you to actually do medical care.
That is a really, really cool idea. Okay, events. Let's talk about somebody wants to throw an event.
So you could do a third-party event, or you can come to one of our events. We're going to do a couple of events, one in Denver, one in Nashville, around Women's Day, International Women's Day. That's going to be really fun. We're doing what's called a Farm to Tableau event in Phoenix. That'll be a lot of fun. We're going to do another fundraiser event around Mother's Day. We've got 2 big events that we do. One of them is the Sanctuary Golf Tournament. And for anybody that is following Limelight and loves to golf, Dave and Gail Leniger, that's the couple who founded Remax. They own a private golf course just outside of Castle Pines in Colorado. There's
Hmm.
members of this golf course, Dave and his wife, Gail.
Right.
There's a Jim Ing course. He spent an incredible amount of money to create probably the best golf experience in the United States, and you cannot buy your way onto this course.
Okay.
He allows about a dozen charities to come
Oh,
every year, and
okay.
we've been blessed enough to play for 17 years now on as a guest of Mr. and Mrs. Leniger. And so that's going to be the Sanctuary Tournament. And for people who really love golf and really love charity, it is the best day of golf ever, because you tee off at that first tee. You can see from Pikes Peak to Longs Peak, and you're out there, and the food is incredible. So we're going to do that later in the fall in August. And then we do a First Ladies lunch, and it's not every year, but when we get a First Lady that we really want to honor. In
Right.
fact, that's how you and I met. Remember, was
Absolutely.
Elise in Phoenix, and that was a number of years ago.
Lovely. What a lovely
You
lady.
haven't changed. I've gotten much older, but
Oh, okay. All right. Well, now you're my new best friend. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. And it was a lovely event. I mean, there had to have been 300 plus people in that luncheon. People really show up for this. Again, everybody take a look, projectcure.org. It's on the ticker below. You're going to want to go over to the website, get some more information there. There's no excuse. I mean, there's every way to possibly help, benefit, donate, or volunteer that you could possibly ever imagine with Project Cure. They don't, there's no gray matter there. Just go to the website. You can take a look at everything that is there. The other thing I did want to mention, and I sort of touched upon before we came on air, was that you were just awarded the Prince's Roundtable at the Prince's Roundtable in Monaco. You received the Prince Albert Award of Innovations in Philanthropy. Congratulations on that.
thank you.
That's
He's
extraordinary. How did Prince? I'm just going to throw how did my pal Al? How did my friend Albert find out about Project Cure?
Well, somebody nominated us, and they have a panel, and they decided that Project Cure was going to be the honorees this year, and so
That's awesome.
very special occasion. We did it at the yacht club there, and
Yeah, isn't it gorgeous?
Development goals. We talked about, climate change. We talked about
Right.
the
Yeah.
refugees in Europe. And
Right.
then, I had an opportunity to address this group and tell them thank you and talk a little bit about what it means to really go into communities and change things and save people's lives. And it was a very
Right.
powerful thing.
That is a very powerful thing. Well, yeah, we very quickly when we were there, it was for his foundation, obviously,
Right.
Rome in October, and again, just an extraordinary guy. I mean, Prince Albert is a phenomenal. And for most people here in the United States, that may not know who Prince Albert it is. He is Grace Kelly's son, and he's running Monaco or Monte Carlo, whichever resonates with you. And he's doing an amazing job, just a phenomenal job. So that I want to congratulate you on. I think that's really extraordinary. Again, everybody, you can see on the ticker below that is projectcure.org. Always something to do. Never a dull moment, I'm sure. What's next for you? Where are you going to see? What do you want to see Project Cure in 10 years? You've already mentioned I want it to be well known. I want everybody to know about it. What are the next steps for you guys? And what is your value proposition, by the way?
Well, let's start with that one. The value proposition really for anybody is that you can spend $20,000 to $25,000, and Project Cure will do all the work and deliver $500,000 of medical supplies.
Right.
And along next to you and help train and help work with you, do clinic work. It really is about what we call sustainable infrastructure development in healthcare, and so
right.
That's what we're trying to do. Now, the answer to the first question is related to that because a nonprofit, and I'm not talking about hospitals and museums and universities, but a regular nonprofit, the goal really should be to put yourself out of business. You think about that for a minute. Otherwise, you're just attacking symptoms.
Right.
Now, the fact of the matter is
right.
that I think that, there's countries around the world who are going to need our help for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But our approach and the answer to your question about where do you want to be in 10 years, the right answer to that question is I hope we're out of business.
Right.
I hope we have helped to address the world needs on healthcare to a point where they don't need Project Cure anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that's not going to happen. So in the interim, I told you we've got 7 big warehouses. I'd love to have 25 warehouses. And we know across the United States that there's 24 communities that are larger medical communities than Denver, Colorado. In Denver, we will deliver a semi-truck trailer a week out of this warehouse right here, and there's only 28 hospitals in the Front Range of Colorado. Phoenix, you guys have like 38 or 40.
Okay.
Got 85. Houston's got 147 hospitals in the greater Houston Metroplex, right?
Right.
All of those people can donate medical supplies, time, energy, money.
Sure.
To go and here's what we know. You could take every stone in Afghanistan and build a school, but if those little kiddos are sick, they're not going to school.
Yeah.
You could buy every mommy in Africa a cow, and they should because they need, some way to save their money and earn money and all of that.
Your children, right?
If mom is sick, the cow doesn't give milk.
Right.
The foundation of all of our economic progress starts with our healthcare. We got to be healthy to function. And so to go into a community anywhere, Africa, Latin America, South America, Asia, whatever, and to say we really need to work with these people so that they can create a sustainable life, they can look out for themselves, they can, take care of themselves. It starts with healthcare. And so that piece of this, we were talking about sustainable development goals with Prince Albert. And, ours is clearly sustainable goal number 3. And anybody can look up SDGs, right? There's 17 of them now.
Right. That's right.
8. It was easier for me to memorize when it was 8.
Yeah, I had the first 8. I had the first 8 memorized too. Anyway, okay.
So they changed them when they changed from millennial development to sustainable development. But anyway, so 3 is healthcare. People need healthcare. Well, number 5 is maternal care. It's wrong that a mom should lose her life trying to give life to her baby.
Right.
When we intervene in this, we're taking care of gender equality issues too.
Yeah.
And trying to help moms and dads have an equal access to things starting in the maternity ward.
Right.
Education, we've talked about that already. Partnership is number 17. So we're not coming in and displacing healthcare people in that country. If it's a state hospital and those doctors are doing good work, we'll help them. If it's a
Right.
private hospital and the doctors are doing good work, we're going to help them. And you know, I've been working in Cuba for a long time, back and forth since 2007. There is no, you know, healthcare system as we know it. It's all a part of the government. Great.
Right.
If I can get healthcare to those people who need it,
Sure. Here's what I want to know. I want to know how many air miles you have.
a lot.
Holy
Too
smokes.
many.
You travel a lot and you're doing amazing work. You know, very, very much, obviously, very much needed all around the world. Super commendable, you and all of the people that are behind you, all the people that are supporting you, all the people that are with you, all the people that work with you, all need a huge round of applause and to be commended for what you're doing. So I want to remind everybody to go take a look, a very good, long, hard look at project.c.u.r.e. Get over there, do something, help out. You know, I always say, you know, doing something good for somebody else just makes you feel darn good. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Doug,
you know, there's actually
Sorry?
There's scientific evidence that is exactly what happens. It releases serotonin and
Oxycontin.
Just say oxycodone. We don't go there anymore. But anyway, it does the same thing that, you know, working out and all those other good things do in your body, and you do live longer. You're happier when you help other people. It's scientifically proven fact now. So
yeah, and it doesn't have to be huge, by the way. You know, people go, "Oh, I don't have." It could be the smallest amounts because they all add up. We've heard that before, but it is true. And I think it's worth, you know, mentioning and reminding everyone. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be broad stroke, you know, actions. It can be just something as small as a small donation or throwing a party, or like we said before in the interview. Doug Jackson, I do want to thank you for taking the time and being with me and downloading Chrome and being patient with the process. And I do hope to see you again very, very soon. I wish you all the best.
Thanks for all you do, and really appreciate being on today.
All right, Doug, thanks.
All right.